Hello. Hi, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us on this glorious sunny evening. I hope you had a good start to the week. Hope you had a good Monday, and I hope you had a very lovely weekend. It's such a treat right now having beautiful sunny weekends for a change, isn't it? And actually a little bit of kind of consistency in it. So long may it continue. Um, However, I don't think it's set to, is it? It's going to break this week. Typical. Today we're going to be making cacao and espresso nut butter cups. And forgive me, because I'm going to mix this up throughout. So I'm going to lay it out right now. We're making cacao espresso nut butter cups, and we're using Hungry Squirrel Almond Espresso nut butter to do so. So I can guarantee I'm going to mix that up throughout today's session. So that is what we're doing. I'll get it right first time and then excuse myself from here on. But yeah, we're using Almond Espresso nut butter. So I'm delighted to be joined by the lovely Susan from Hungry Squirrel today. And actually, I feel like most of my guests that I've had on for these sessions so far I've introduced by saying, oh yes, we met virtually in these COVID times and met on Instagram and all the rest, but I actually am delighted to say that I met Susan in person. And I think it must have been almost 2 years ago now, Susan, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, I believe
So
so.
we were, it was at Jandery. We were both sampling our products at Jandery on Queensferry Street. So yeah, and I tasted some of Hungry Squirrel nut butters then and was blown away by the flavours. They just taste so good. But more than that, by the range, it's a really kind of creative array of flavors that I've never seen before for a nut butter company. So I just thought that was awesome. And since then, I've kind of been in love with Hungry Squirrel nut butters. So Susan, if you want to just introduce yourself to everyone and tell them a little bit about Hungry Squirrel, that'd be great.
Yeah, hello, I'm Susan, obviously, and I started Hungry Squirrel about just over 4 years ago now. I was really a big fan of peanut butter at the time and just became intolerant to it. So was looking for something to replace that and started eating almond butters from the supermarket, but they just didn't seem to hit the mark at that point in time. They were just a bit bland and tasteless, I thought. So I thought surely I can make something similar myself, but better. So that's where the business idea started. I started creating nut butters, and they were a lot tastier. And then started looking at different flavors, looking online because it's a big thing, obviously, in the US and New Zealand and Australia, Scandinavia as well. I believe nut butters are a massive deal. So there was lots of inspiration out there online, and just started playing around with different recipes and force feeding my friends nut butters.
I bet they loved it. So I didn't realize. So do you not do any peanut butters in your range at all?
I actually
Okay,
do now. I can't eat
right.
peanut butter myself, but everyone kept asking, "Do you do peanut butter? Always asking if I did a peanut butter." So I did bring out a peanut butter just over a year ago, I think, and it is just a very plain salted
Yeah,
peanut
but
butter,
you've got so many other, you kind of don't
and
need
it's
it. I
just,
hadn't even
yeah,
noticed that you didn't do it.
the flavored ones are more my thing, but
Ah,
yeah.
that's interesting. I assumed, I suppose, just because you're a nut butter company, I assumed that it all started with peanut butter, like so many of them do. But actually, that's quite an interesting
Well,
story.
it did kind of, because I loved peanut butter. I loved it before, but then I just couldn't eat it anymore. So it was a response to not being
Yeah,
able to.
that's.
And also, I wanted my kids to have my children were quite young at the time, and they were addicted to Nutella. So I was just wanting them to have something a bit healthier, a bit less sugar, a bit less palm oil, all these
Yeah,
kind of things that we just accept in our
I
foods these
know.
days. So it's a response to that as
Yeah,
well.
that's awesome. And I bet because you can't eat peanut butter and you loved it so much, you've been really kind of like that's probably explains why the flavors are so good because you've been really kind of like, an eye for perfection on them.
Yeah, maybe. Plus, I think once I started doing it, it became a kind of, because it was always just plain peanut butter, just plain almond butter when I was eating it previously. So it's like, well, actually, if you add extra flavors to this and make it a bit more interesting, you don't need to do anything else with it. You could just spread it on a bit of toast or cracker and eat it, and it's a meal in itself.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how the
And how
flavors
long have you
came.
been going for?
So it's just over 4 years. It was 4 years
Okay, because I
past in May.
guess I suppose similar to me in a way, because for me in my journey so far, the plant-based world has exploded in the past 3 years, and I guess it's the same for you in nut butter because that really has exploded in the past kind of 3-4 years as well, I think.
Yeah, certainly UK. It's definitely a sort of growing market, and it does tie in nicely with the whole vegan, plant-based, palm oil free, whatever it is that you're looking for. Lots of different
Yeah,
dietary requirements. It does fit in with that gluten free, all these
because all your
things. So
products are vegan, palm oil free, refined sugar free. Am I right? Yeah,
yeah, yeah. There'll be some have got no refined sugar in any of them. Yeah, we do syrups and things, but
yeah,
natural syrups.
yeah.
Yeah.
So big thumbs up for most of my recipes then. Which is why I'm delighted to cook with them today. So, what we'll do today is follow the usual kind of our usual construct for the session. I'll run through. I'm back in Chef's Corner, so for the past couple of weeks, I have not been cooking. We had Agata last week from Hatta, who was making the porridge, and then we had Jojo the week before, who was making the rhubarb salad. So I'm quite pleased to be back in my sort of happy place of Chef's Corner, and cooking again. So I'll be doing the cooking again today, obviously, because you're not going to do it virtually. Well, you could, but a bit more challenging. So I'll run through the ingredients that we're going to need. If anyone's cooking along, then feel free to chat in the comments with any questions that you've got as to ingredients or steps that I'm going too fast or anything like that. Please feel free to drop anything in the comments. And likewise, if you've got any questions for Susan or about the recipe or about anything else, then chuck them in the comments too. And I can see the comments from both YouTube and Facebook. We're live on both, so just pop them in the comments and I will answer as we go. So first things first, I'm just going to go through the ingredients and then I'll get on with the demo and then we can sort of have a chat as we are cooking, if that's all right, Susan?
Yeah.
Fab.
Sounds good.
So what we've got today, 2 tablespoons of cacao powder. We've got 6 tablespoons total of coconut oil, but I've split it out here for the separate parts of the recipe. So we've got 5 tablespoons of coconut oil here. We've got we've got 4 tablespoons of maple syrup for this part, and then we've got another tablespoon of maple syrup for the topping. And we're going to use 4 tablespoons of the Almond Espresso nut butter in total. 2 for the kind of base of the peanut butter cup, and then 2 for the topping. Now, if you want to make this with your kids and espresso maybe isn't the nut butter of choice, you could substitute this for, any other of the flavors. There's such a diverse range of flavors, so you could substitute it for nearly anything and it would taste pretty good, I think. They've done this same recipe with both just plain almond butter and plain peanut butter as well. So it works with most nut butters, to be honest. So if you don't want to send your kids high as a kite and make this with them, then I'd maybe recommend not using the espresso. However, I don't know what the actual caffeine content is. Is there much, Susan?
No, it's fairly low percentage.
But probably from a flavour point of view, it might be better if you're doing it with your kids to do just a plain almond butter anyway. So the base is the cacao powder, 2 tablespoons of cacao powder, 5 tablespoons of maple syrup, 5 tablespoons of coconut oil, 2 tablespoons of the nut butter, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and just a pinch of salt. To that, we're then going to add 100 grams of porridge oats, and I would use the jumbo oats, the slightly bigger ones, rather than your small porridge oats, just because it'll make a nicer texture for the base of the nut butter cup, sorry. I knew I was going to mess that up. And then for the topping, we've just got a tablespoon of coconut oil, another tablespoon of maple syrup, and then we're going to put another 2 tablespoons of the nut butter into that and melt that all together for the topping. So it's a super simple recipe. A great one, like I say, a great one to make with your kids, especially if I'm afraid the forecast is set to turn. So if you're stuck at home with the kids and have to have an indoors day during the holidays, then this might be quite a good one to do with them. Right. Shall we get cooking? Okay. So all you're going to need for this is basically a saucepan and a cupcake tray. So we're going to start in the saucepan, and into that we're just going to put the 5 tablespoons of coconut oil. I'll just do it over here actually so we can see what I'm doing. 5 tablespoons of coconut oil. Get it all in there. It's so hot in my kitchen right now that this is all melting already. 5 tablespoons of maple syrup. Pop that in there. And then 2 tablespoons of the nut butter. I'm just going to give this a shake around to mix it because it'll have the layer of oil on the top. Now, Susan, this is my mark, and I might be totally off with this, but my mark of a good nut butter is actually that the separation is a good thing because it just shows that there's no stabilizers and stuff in it. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely, exactly right. Yeah, no stabilizers or emulsifiers. It's just nuts that naturally separate. So it takes a bit of time. So the fresher they are, you won't get that, but over time.
Because it can be a bit off-putting, can't it? You sort of think, oh, why is it all separated? But actually, because
people email me saying I bought a jar and it's had this layer of oil, and it's, what do I do? Yeah.
Because it is, if you're used to buying the likes of Sunpat, it doesn't separate at all, does it?
Yeah,
which shows the difference, actually, which, I mean, like I say, I reckon it shows the quality.
And my tip would be, if you get a jar like that and it's really, really tough to stir it in because it can get quite solid at the bottom, is just to scrape it all into a bigger container, a bowl, and mix it thoroughly and then put it back in the jar if you can. Probably the best option.
And what about when you heat nut butters? Does that change them at all in terms of the flavour?
When you heat it, yeah, they get softer and lovely when they're warm. Because obviously when I make them, they come out naturally quite warm when you're working them. That's the sort of natural state when they've just been finished being produced, and they're so delicious at that point. Yeah.
So in here we've got the 5 tablespoons of coconut oil, 4 tablespoons of maple syrup, 2 tablespoons of cacao powder, 2 tablespoons of Almond Espresso nut butter, and a pinch of salt and a teaspoon of vanilla essence. So we're just going to pop that onto the heat and let that melt slowly, and that is going to make kind of like a chocolatey consistency, which is going to be just delicious. So what's your do you have any, I cook with nut butters all the time actually, do you have any sort of favourite recipes that's your go-tos? Do you cook with it a lot actually,
I'm really
are you kind of a purist?
Add them in my porridge. I like them on toast with bananas. I have them, I'll maybe do a bit of home baking occasionally, and I'll have that as a sort of icing, using all the different nut butters I have. Probably the only thing I ever cook with is maybe put the chai spiced in a stir fry or something, or the kids love chicken strips. Sorry, I know this is a vegan thing, but the kids love chicken strips, and they will have it with chai spice on a skewer, and that's what they like.
Chai spice. So chai spice.
Yeah, chai spice.
Oh, nice. That sounds really good.
And it works really well with veggies and stuff as well, obviously. So you could marinate veggies or just give them a bit of a coating and skewer them and grill them. They're really nice.
So anything that you're kind of like making a bit of a satay sauce with, you could use that with, couldn't you? Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you've inspired me. Next week we're going to do some meal preppy things, and I was thinking about doing some tempeh skewers. So maybe we'll try your chai spice nut butter for that.
I'll stick it down a jar.
Sounds great. Yeah, so I cook with quite a lot of nut butters, and I don't, because peanut butter is always the one that's in all the recipes, but actually I quite often use cashew butter, which I think is super nice because it's really sort of smooth and creamy. But yeah, it's good to kind of mix it up. I tend to, my go-tos are peanut, almond and cashew butter, but I have to be honest, I don't get that much more creative than that. So I'm actually quite excited to get stuck into some of your range and mix things up a bit, because it's quite a good way of making, it's quite an easy way of changing up your flavours as well.
Absolutely, different nutrients have all got different benefits. They have all the different nuts.
So that's actually quite interesting. What's the most nutritious of the nuts in a nut butter? Well, I suppose it depends, but
I've recently made the acquaintance of a nut farmer actually in California, and he raves about walnuts. Walnuts are apparently one of the most nutritious nuts we can eat. So I'm currently working on a recipe with some walnuts. So that's kind of my next.
So what is it in walnuts that's so good?
I don't know. Probably lots of fibre, antioxidants.
I try to remember that
Yeah, I'm not
magnesium. I think there's lots of magnesium in walnuts. I think I might be
sure.
making that up. But what I recently discovered as well, Brazil nuts. You can eat 2 Brazil nuts a day and get your daily allowance of selenium, which is a mood booster. So I've started having 2 Brazil nuts every day and seeing if I'm in a better mood.
Really good. That's really good.
We'll see.
Yeah. Simple. So two Brazil
Well,
nuts
I
is
know,
nothing.
yeah. I've just got a pot of them and I take it, like I don't take an awful lot of supplements, but I do take a couple of supplements every day. So I have my supplements and 2 Brazil nuts and I'm like powered up for the day. But yeah. Cool. So we're just letting that melt. That's taking a little bit longer, but just make sure you do it on a low heat because the last thing you want to happen is for anything to stick. So just let that do its thing. Hello, Sandy. We've not seen you for a while. Good to have you back joining us. Are you cooking along today or are you just watching? Give us a chef's hat if you're cooking and we'll slow down to make sure you can keep up. What was I going to ask you, Susan? I had something on my tip of my tongue there. So yeah, in terms of because you do have this kind of like wide array of flavors, and I suppose from what I've seen from other nut butters, it's always, the expected ones are sort of like sweetened with maple syrup or have some cacao in there, but there's not an awful lot that goes wider than that. But chai spice, for example, you kind of go in quite a lot of different directions with it. Do you do that based on ways that people might eat them or cook with them, or what sort of inspires you?
It's personal preference, I guess, really. Initially, when I started the business, I had a friend who worked with me, and we kind of developed a range of flavors together for the first year. So yeah, that was kind of it. It was just kind of our personal preferences, what we thought would be nice, what we wanted ourselves. And that was kind of how it is, how it's developed.
And have you made life hard for yourself? Like now you've got this big range of
Yes.
flavors that make production difficult.
I've been told so many times you need to cut back your product range, by business people that I meet, support agencies and that. You need to cut back your range to a minimum, and I just can't do it. I just can't bring myself to switch off any of them, because there's always somebody there's a core group of people that like certain flavors, and they're not the best seller.
I always find that as well, actually.
Yeah.
I always think, right, I'm going to discontinue this product. And then just as you're about to do it, suddenly somebody starts buying it, like, signs up for a subscription of it or something. And you think, oh, God, I can't do it now. Or suddenly then it becomes someone's favorite. So there's things that I've been meaning to take off our menu for years and haven't quite got the guts to do it. You get quite attached to them.
When you're a small business as well, it's kind of hard to, you think, well, I haven't reached everyone. I haven't, how many people have actually tried it, so it's difficult to know realistically. But like the one that you're using tonight, the Almond Espresso, is a kind of key example, because it wasn't a good seller, and I've been working that recipe for a long time now and tweaking it, and I think I've finally got it to a place I want it to be. Well, I really enjoy it anyway.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
But then the feedback recently has been great, and sales are really starting to build on that one. So it is, sometimes you maybe just have to run with something a little bit and have a bit of faith
it's great. I mean, for me, it's just the perfect balance of, I find with espresso flavored things, they're sometimes like, I love coffee, but sometimes they can be either really bitter and kind of overpowering, or you can barely taste the coffee. And I think you've got it just right. I really do.
Thank you.
I'll definitely be a favorite of mine. Right. So here we've got this lovely chocolatey smooth sauce, which smells just like melted chocolate. So once you've got it nice and smooth and everything's melted like that, make sure you've got no lumps of cacao in there. So just give it a good stir. Looks amazing. And then we're just going to add into that our porridge oats. And then just give that a good stir in. And that's basically going to become the base of our nut butter cups. And you want this to be quite sort of thick. So this is going to solidify as it cools. So if it looks like it's too wet and there's too much kind of chocolatiness in it, then you might want to add just a tiny bit more oats. I think I'm going to add just a tiny bit more oats. So cameraman, if you could just pass me over the big jar of oats. He loves it when he has to get involved like this. And then I'm just going to add literally just kind of like a sprinkle, because you can see, I don't know if you can see there, but you can see that it's just sort of sitting in a little bit of the chocolate sauce there. So we just want to sort of absorb that a little bit. So literally just a small handful, small sprinkle like that. And that should just absorb that to make sure they stay nice and solid once you put them into the cups, because these do, because it's coconut oil and nut butter, they do kind of get quite melty. So the more solid you can make them, the better. So that's perfect now. That's getting nice and stiff. All right. So turn your heat off. Get your cupcake tray. And these are just regular size cupcakes. And I'm going to line 9 of them with my pretty pink spotty cupcake. Oh, counted them wrong. Don't know how I counted them so wrong. So we're going to get 9 little cases, and then into that, we're just going to spoon our mixture. Just not burn my counter. So I'm just going to use a dessert spoon and a teaspoon. And we'll do it so fill it with just 1 spoonful, and then we can always go back around and top up as we flatten them. Just going to use my fingers because, let's face it, that's always the easier way. Not very good at utensil side of things. So Susan, do you have a personal favourite of your range?
It kind of changes from week to week. Probably cookie dough candy.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it is probably the one I always go back to time and again, because it is really nice.
And do you is best served just on toast, like simply done, or?
Yeah, on a cracker and toast with banana, or just on a bit of fruit. I like it on sliced apples, actually, just on sliced apples with a bit of that on it.
I recently introduced, actually, Alison, I think you're watching, recently introduced Alison and her mum to peanut butter just on cut apple. They were kind of like, they watched me do it and they were like, what are you doing? That's so strange. And I was like, you just have to try it. And so they both tried it and they were like, oh, yes. Yeah. So got some nut butter and fruit converts there, because I think that's just a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm quite bad as well. I always, for me, peanut butter is actually really quite a handy snack, or nut butter, full stop, because I really do have a sweet tooth. So when my snacks will tend to be sweet versus savoury, but I do sometimes feel like, I'm too jacked up in sugar and I need to eat something savoury. So when I add a bit of peanut butter into like a piece of fruit or something, it does help kind of keep me a bit more balanced, which I think is quite important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us, what's next on the horizon for Hungry Squirrel?
So just trying to expand my retail offering, I suppose, trying to connect with more shops throughout the UK and Europe and further afield.
Are you already in Europe, or no?
Not yet. No. So I do sell through my online store and get orders from around Europe, but not any direct sales to retail. So that's kind of the plan, just to keep growing it.
But you're already in quite a few retailers throughout Scotland, aren't you? Like, I've seen you in quite a few places in Edinburgh specifically. I suppose that's where I've been looking.
Yeah, absolutely. Throughout the whole of Scotland, really. I've got quite a few retailers all over the place now, and a couple in England. So it's just kind of growing quite sustainably, I suppose, is the thing.
Where about in Edinburgh can we find you? I think most people watching are probably from around Edinburgh.
The affiliate of the Fab store. So there's 2 of them now as well. There's a new one in Corstorphine, St John's Road.
Oh, is there?
As well as the one on New. So in there, they've got the whole range in both stores.
So they obviously have it, the whole range, but not in jars. They'll have it so you can fill your own.
They do their own. Yeah, they do their own ones for that. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Awesome.
I think it's just peanut butter, maybe.
Nice. Right, so you see I've just kind of I've maybe not done this the most evenly, but we're going to have some slightly bigger than others, but just flattened all of those down so we've got a nice smooth top, and then put that in the fridge or freezer for whilst you're making the top. I'd probably put it in the freezer whilst you're making the top just to chill it down as fast as you can. And then we're going to top them. I'm actually not going to put it in the freezer today because obviously I'm here in my corner, but if you do that when you're making it, it'll chill it down just so it's a little bit harder for then putting the topping onto. So for the topping, you can use the same bowl, same pan, sorry. I'm not into washing for the sake of it. So you can just use the same bowl because it's all going on the same, in the same recipe. So here you've got your remaining 1 tablespoon of coconut oil and your remaining 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. And then into that, we're also going to put another 2 tablespoons of our almond and espresso nut butter. So, and this is just going to make a lovely smooth and sort of pourable nut butter topping for these lovely bases. I'm going to pop that in. Oh, it smells so good. There you go. Can you identify all of your different butters just by the look of them? Yeah?
I can actually, yeah.
I can imagine some of them look quite similar. I was just thinking this one does have quite a different colour to it with the addition of the espresso.
Uh-huh, yeah, it's a lovely colour. This looks so good. I'm going to have to go and try these.
So pop that back on the heat, and then we're just going to give that a little bit of a heat just to, and this won't need very much at all. We're just going to give it a little bit of heat and a little bit of a stir just to bring it into a nice pourable or spoonable consistency. Easy for you to say. So just give that a little stir around. And so, Susan, the other thing I love about Hungry Squirrel is you're based up in Aberdeenshire, which is close to my heart.
Yes,
that's where I grew up.
Yeah.
I was actually up there this weekend visiting my folks. I grew up in Afford, so not so far away at all.
And great weather you have as well, because it's just been lovely, hasn't it?
So lovely, honestly. I think Aberdeenshire in this weather just sells itself beautifully. I mean, it can be a bit of a miserable place in a long winter when the days are short, but when it's like this and it kind of just doesn't go dark properly, does it?
I know, it's just been amazing. The last couple of weeks have just been amazing, and you just don't want it to end.
I hope it does. I hope we get a good summer. I think we deserve a good summer. Okay. So this one, that's about as... Have we got a top-down shot, or will I bring it over? Yeah, that's about as much as you want to do. You don't want to heat it more than that, or it'll start to stick to the bottom. So just... That is perfect. And then you've got a nice runny consistency like that. And then all we're going to do is spoon that onto... I've used all my spoons. I don't know how I create so many dishes when I'm just doing such a simple little recipe. Right. So spoon that. Go easy so you don't run out, because it's not that much. You just want a thin layer on the top there. So I'm just going to put a thin layer on all of them, a little blob on all of them. And then I can smooth that out with the back of a spoon and add a little bit more if I've got more. But you don't want to land yourself short. A little bit of nut butter goes a long way. That's kind of my lesson to myself. I used to kind of slather it on everything, but I got a little bit more conscious, because whilst it's good for you, obviously, in that it's good fats, like it is quite high calorie. So I had to sort of start limiting myself and kind of be a bit more sensible with my portion sizes. But just love it. Okay, so just get a clean spoon. If you're ever sort of, things are getting a bit sticky with this recipe, which they inevitably will, just get a fresh spoon, and that will make it much easier to spread stuff. So once you've got a dirty spoon, it just makes it that wee bit more tricky. There we go. So tell me where Hungry Squirrel came from in terms of the name, because I love my background's actually in branding, and that's another thing that I've always thought is really cool about Hungry Squirrel is your brand. I think it's really fun. It's really quirky.
Yeah, so you know what? It was again that my friend who helped me in the first year of business. We just had a round table to just talk about business names when that started, and that was one of her ideas. Hazel, it was one of her ideas to have Hungry Squirrel. So yeah,
Yeah.
there it was, and it's great because it's you can use the squirrel obviously in lots of different contexts with nuts, and yeah,
Well,
it's a
that's the
great
thing.
little
I thought I
name.
love about it is it's so you use it in such fun ways. Like your website's Feed the Squirrel and your Instagram is Nut HQ, is it or something? Yeah.
Yeah,
I just think
right.
it's so it's just cute. I like it. And
And who doesn't love
who
a red
doesn't love a
squirrel?
red squirrel? The poor things are endangered though, aren't they?
Well, I think they're increasing
Are
again
they?
a bit,
That's
I
good.
think. Yeah, certainly in this country, yeah.
Um, the other thing I was going to ask you actually was about production. Do you do it all yourself still, or have you got a team or?
I do. I make it all
Wow.
myself. It is a huge undertaking, actually. Yeah, it's a massive job. But I have been working with a manufacturer in England, so I am looking to maybe outsource some of my
Okay.
production going forward, just as the business grows, because it's impossible to do it all
Yeah, I suppose
yourself.
it's that balance, isn't it,
Uh,
of kind of managing to let
mm,
go enough to let someone else get involved, but also keep the quality. And
yeah,
I suppose you kind of,
yeah,
well, you're striving to have it all, aren't you? Growth, quality, consistency, and all the rest of it. So it's a juggling act for
it's
sure.
a real balance. Yeah, absolutely. It's really not easy, but I think I found someone really good. So we'll see how that
So
goes. Yeah,
that's gonna be what allows you to take on the EU.
absolutely,
Yeah,
and beyond.
wonderful. Sounds brilliant. Right, so here we have it, guys. Alan, if you can do a little close up of what these look like before they go into the freezer, I'm just going to get a here's one I made earlier and show you what they look like after they've been setting. That was a little interlude that cameraman wasn't expecting and wasn't happy about. So here we go. This is pre-freezer, and then once they've gone in the freezer, my slightly more homemade cupcake wrappers here, but they'll be rock hard like this. And if you can eat them directly from the freezer, or you can defrost them. But to be honest, they only need about sort of 30 minutes, if that, 20, 30 minutes outside the freezer, and then they're perfect eating temperature. I'll just, okay, I'll just bite into one now so you can see what they look like. You forced me. So you can see you've got the kind of layer on the top there, but it's also kind of seeped through a little bit, which is delish. And then bite in.
God, that looks so good. I'm jealous.
And it's just a beautiful flavor. Like I say, I've made these with peanut butter and I've made them with almond butter, but I have to be honest, with this almond espresso butter, it just brings it up a notch. That little addition of coffee in there just makes it delicious. Love it. So hopefully some of you will enjoy making that. Like I say, whether it's with the kids or whether it's just a nice kind of plant-based treat, because who doesn't need more of them in their lives? I have made a trial for these. Here was one I made earlier, which I'll be honest, these are the only two left of that trial that I made only 2 days ago. And I'm now going to have this nice tray of 9, so I'm going to be eating these for a while, which is perfect. But the good news is they last in the fridge for a week, but they last in the freezer for up to 6 months. So actually they're quite a good one to make on a rainy day and then have a little treat hidden in the freezer for when you need that little pick-me-up. So it's a fab wee recipe. For anyone who's watched it, not cooked it, but wants to make it in their own time, then the ingredients in their method are in the description, whether you're on Facebook or whether you're on YouTube. So you'll find the method and the ingredients in there if you want to make it back in your own time. All right. So I think that's it for today, guys. I thank you very much for joining us. And Susan, thanks very much for coming on tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here and hear a little bit more about what's going on at Nut HQ. I'll definitely be keeping a close eye on it. And like I say, I've kind of been following you since I met you at Jean de Vries that time. And yeah, I love what you do. I love your brand and I love your nut butters. So keep on going with it. And I really hope you do expand and yeah, hope to see you in lots of places soon.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Norma. Really nice to speak with you, and I love what you're doing as well.
Thanks very much. So if anyone's got any last minute questions for Susan, drop them in the comments. Meanwhile, I'll just say what we're up to next week. So next week, I'll be back, same time, same place. And I think I'll be flying solo next week, actually. We've had guests on for the past kind of 4 weeks, so I think I'm going to do a solo show. And actually, I'm planning on doing some meal prep, high protein meal prep ideas. Because I've noticed myself, actually, I think it kind of sort of started off trying to be this wonderful plant-based person that did everything properly or ate the right things at all the right times. And actually I've realized that I'm probably not getting enough protein in my diet myself, which is ridiculous. So I feel like I need to practice what I preach a little bit more. And I'm going to do a wee meal prep session with you to show you how to make some easy high protein things that you can have in the fridge and either add to a meal or snack on to make sure you're getting enough plant-based protein in your diet. So if that interests you, then join me live here on Monday, 8 o'clock. We'll be on Facebook and YouTube as usual. And last but not least, a wee plug for myself. If you need some help getting some healthy plant-based meals into your diet, then check out our menu at newnorm.co.uk. We have got new smoothies on there. We've got a couple of new breakfasts on there, and we will be adding we'll be changing up the menu a little bit in the next few weeks as well. So keep an eye on it. Newnorm.co.uk. If you're in Edinburgh, we deliver on a Friday, and if you're in wider Scotland, we deliver on a Tuesday. So keep an eye out and drop me a message if you've got any questions. And that's it. That's it for now. Take care, guys, and I hope you have enjoyed tonight's show. See you soon. Thanks again, Susan, and thanks everyone for watching.
Bye.
Bye.